Why haven't we seen Afghan women compete in international pageants? Before I answer that question, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so and make sure to click the bell icon below to receive instant notification for the next video. And to the new subscribers, welcome and thank you for your support. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram. Now, going back to the question, why haven't we seen Afghan women compete in international pageants? If you think it's because of the strict Islamic regime that forbids pageants in the country, you're right. Under the Islamic Sharia law, Muslim women are forbidden to display their bodies in public, and it condemns pageants because it encourages the objectification of women. And in very rigid Islamic countries like Iran, Somalia, Mauritania, and Afghanistan, a woman should be covered from head to toe so as not to entice men with their feminine charm, even though face veiling has not been regarded as a religious requirement by most Islamic scholars. But for the Taliban in Afghanistan, the face of a woman is a source of corruption for men not related to them. If she disobeyed these discriminatory laws, punishments were harsh. A woman could be flogged for showing an inch or two of skin under her full-body burqa, beaten for attempting to study, beaten for bicycling or wearing colorful clothes, beaten for laughing loudly, and stoned to death if she was found guilty of adultery. And even though the Taliban were ousted from power by the end of 2001, they and other highly conservative insurgent groups still control some parts of the country, and violence and discrimination against women and girls continues. Despite this harsh treatment of women under the Sharia law, it has not stopped Muslim women from improving themselves through makeup, exercise, diet, or other beauty regimen, though sometimes they have to do it secretly. Granted, not all Muslim-dominant countries forbid their women to compete in pageants. Muslim-dominant countries like Turkey, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Kosovo have a secular form of government which allows pageants and modeling competitions. Fortunately, nowadays, there are pageants that have bended their own rules by accepting contestants in diaspora, as I will illustrate later. In the case of Afghanistan, all Afghan constitutions except the Constitution of 1980 endorse the traditional supremacy of Sharia law in the country. It may be surprising to know that women in Afghanistan participated socially, politically, and economically in the life of their societies before the Taliban came into power. Here are images of Afghan women before the Taliban. As you can see, these women looked and dressed normal, at least from the modern Western point of view. Zohra Daoud comes from this generation of modern Afghan women. Zohra has the privilege of being the first Miss Afghanistan. Born in 1954 in Mazar-e-Sharif, Zohra grew up in Kabul. When it was announced that Afghan Life magazine was holding the first Miss Afghanistan, Zohra entered the pageant. She was crowned Miss Afghanistan in December 1972 after beating over 100 other contestants, although she never competed internationally. Zohra then went on to work with local television networks and became the host of a popular game show. She also received a degree in French literature at Kabul University. After the Soviet invasion in 1979, Zohra fled Afghanistan to Germany with her newly born infant and husband Mohammed Daoud Sultanzoy, a former airline pilot. They arrived in America in 1980, where they held menial jobs, tried to learn English, and worked towards getting their entire family out of Afghanistan, until finally settling in Southern California. Since the fall of the Taliban, Zohra has become an outspoken activist on the subject of women's rights and the promotion of culture and arts in Afghanistan, while her husband Daoud returned to Afghanistan and became a member of the Afghan parliament from 2005 to 2010, and now the mayor of Kabul. Zohra has co-authored books and spoken at conferences and summits around the world about women's rights, She's also the founder of the Afghan Women Association of Southern California. 6 years ago, she started a YouTube channel named after her and in which she featured guests from the Afghan community in the United States, but the channel only lasted for 7 months. Zohra still lives in Southern California today and remains very active in Afghan American circles. When Zohra's reign ended, no other Afghan woman in the country was crowned Miss Afghanistan, so for several decades, Zohra was known as the first and only Miss Afghanistan. This designation would come to an end when the pageant website Missology discovered a documentary about a 1990 Miss Afghanistan pageant organized by an Afghan lifestyle magazine. The pageant was held at the Hotel Intercontinental, Kabul, and was won by 19-year-old student Motarma Qudsiya Jan. Footage from the pageant is available on YouTube. On the video, you will see the contestants sporting ethnic and Western-style clothing, unveiled, and wearing makeup. These young women had no idea that their country would soon fall into the hands of Taliban 6 years later. No other known pageant was held in the country after 1990. Now, you're probably wondering, how is it possible that Afghanistan gets represented in today's international pageants, especially considering that pageants are banned in the country? The answer is simple: Afghan Diaspora. Hundreds and thousands of Afghans fled the country and became refugees in countries that accepted them. Afghan natives now live in at least 78 countries around the world. Many of them have adjusted well in their new surroundings. One of these Afghan refugees was a young woman named Vida Samadzai, an ethnic Pashtun who was born and raised in Kabul and moved to the United States in 1996. She went to college in California and became an American citizen. During its second year, the Miss Earth pageant has gained enough popularity to receive more participants, yet it still lacked the popularity associated with its rivals, Miss Universe, Miss World, and Miss International. However, the 2003 pageant caught global attention when Vida Samadzai represented Afghanistan and wore a red bikini as a symbol of the newly liberated Afghan woman. Vida became the first Afghan woman to participate in an international pageant. Vida did not win Miss Earth, but pageant officials presented her with a special award called Beauty for a Cause for symbolizing the newfound confidence, courage, and spirit of today's women and representing the victory of women's rights and various social, personal, and religious struggles. Vida received the award in tears and was warmly congratulated by her peers. Miss Earth officials claimed that the award was not created specially for Vida, though it is not clear if it will be presented again in future pageants. Vida's participation in Miss Earth generated protests from conservative Muslims in our country. Fazel Ahmad Manawi, deputy head of Afghanistan's Supreme Court, told the Associated Press that Vida betrayed Afghan culture by wearing a bikini and that she might face criminal charges should she return to Afghanistan. Habiba Sorabi, the Afghan Minister for Women's Affairs, has condemned Vida for her lasciviousness and declared that the beauty queen does not represent the Afghan woman. To some westernized non-Muslims, such attitude may seem absurd. A bikini is nothing more than a female garment designed to cover certain parts while the rest of the body is exposed to the elements. It just so happens that some women wish to wear a bikini on the beach and feels the rays of the sun. On the other hand, some conservative Muslim women also go to the beach and bathe totally clothed, a practice that may seem impractical and ridiculous to many people. What is the point of enjoying the warmth of the sun and the pleasure of the sea if you don't even take off your outer garments, right? What is even more ludicrous about Surabi's comments is that Afghan women were allowed for many years to wear Western clothing, like shirts, blouses, and even short skirts, before the Taliban came into power. Sorabi should actually be condemning the Taliban for reimposing the burqa instead of criticizing Vida. On April 9, 2005, Vida represented Afghanistan in Miss Asia Pacific International Pageant where she wore a burqa as her national costume. Even though she did not place, she managed to win the Miss Friendship Award. On May 1, 2005, Vida competed in Ms. America, a pageant for women 26 years of age and up who are single, divorced, widowed, or married. Not to be confused with Miss America, which is a pageant for women 17 to 24 years of age who are single, were never married, and have never been pregnant. After winning the Miss America title, Vida went on to represent the USA in Miss Tourism Queen International Pageant in China on July 3, 2005, where she won the Miss Personality Award. At the Miss Tourism Queen International Pageant, a female producer from Bollywood allegedly approached Vida and invited her to India to model in several charity fashion shows, including one with Miss Universe. During her reign as Miss America 2005-2006, she received the Presidential Award from the President of the United States for her humanitarian efforts and volunteer service in America and throughout the world. Vida is a successful actress and model in India, where she can be seen in several movies and commercials worldwide. The only time that Afghanistan competed again in Miss Earth was in 2005 with Zohra Daoud. In other pageants, Afghanistan has been represented by Afghans who, like Vida Samadzai, have either fled the country as refugees or who have been born outside Afghanistan. In 2008, an Afghan woman named Mariam Nouri represented Afghanistan at Miss Intercontinental Pageant in Germany. I did not find any information about Mariam on the internet, and I was curious as to how she was able to represent Afghanistan internationally. I can only assume that she either sent herself or that the pageant organizer invited her to compete. The following year, in 2009, Afghanistan was represented in Miss Intercontinental by Zohra Daoud, a German-born Afghani. Zohra would later represent Germany in the same pageant 2 years later, perhaps making her as the first woman to have represented two different countries at the same pageant. Zohra represented Afghanistan in 2012 Top Model of the World, held in Germany, and won the subsidiary title of Miss Globe. During the scandalous Miss Global 2019 pageant that took place in Mexico last January, Afghanistan was represented by a woman named Medina Jan Kaha. I didn't see much information about her on the internet except what has been posted on Miss Global's Facebook page that says her field and profession is supply chain management and describes herself as outgoing, friendly, and nice. Now you wonder, how about Afghan men? Yeah, what about them? Have they competed in international pageants for men? Actually, yes. In 2009, Mahmoud Jan competed in Men Universe Model held in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, where he placed third runner-up. Besides Mahmoud, the only other Afghan man who had the privilege to compete internationally not just once, but thrice, was Hamid Zimmerman Noor, an Afghan living in Australia who competed in Mr. Supranational 2017, in Mr. Grand International 2017, where he placed third runner-up, and in Mr. Global 2018, where he won the Mr. Congeniality Award. Just like the women that came after Zohra Daoud, these Afghan men either voluntarily signed up or were invited to participate in these pageants. Will we get to see more Afghan-born women or men in international pageantry? It's hard to tell. Perhaps Afghan men, since life has been much easier for them. As for Afghan women, historically, they have always been marginalized and accorded subordinate status. And even though there have been some minimal changes to improve the lives of Afghan women, they still remain as second-class citizens in a predominantly patriarchal, tribalistic country. This means that we may never see pageants held ever again since Zohra Daoud won Miss Afghanistan in 1974. Oops, I meant to say 1972. And there you have it, the status of Afghanistan in pageantry. Heavily underrepresented due to the country's austere religious, cultural, and political norms. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, like, comment, and share. Thank you for watching, guys. Until the next time, bye!